To explore how we develop language, we're going to apply our biopsychosocial model to try and appreciate that developing language involves biological, psychological, and social factors. Within our brain, we have various structures that are helpful in learning language. These include regions like the cerebellum in the hindbrain, and within the forebrain, our Wernicke's area and Broca's area. Recall that our Wernicke's area helps us with understanding or comprehension of language, whereas Broca's area, located in our frontal lobe, helps with more production of speech. From a psychological standpoint, part of why we learn language is through reinforcement and through what's called shaping. We'll actually learn more about reinforcement and shaping when we talk about operant and classical conditioning. For now, understand that reinforcement is about rewarding behaviors. If I am reinforced for a behavior, I continue to do that behavior. So in terms of learning language, I might realize once I'm able to say baba, I get my bottle a lot faster than if I'm just crying. That's reinforcement. I get what I want by using language. So it encourages me to continue to learn language and use it in the future to get what I want. The idea of shaping speaks to how our behaviors become more refined and more similar to the target desired behavior over time. We can see shaping in the different stages of language. If we think of crying as the most basic form of language that we all start with, it's not great, but it does allow us to communicate our wants and needs to the people around us. From crying, we move into more cooing and babbling, which is helpful when you're a small child. But let's face it, once you've mastered cooing and babbling, no one is any longer impressed by it. From cooing and babbling, we move into one-word and two-word utterances. We begin to put more words together into sentences and paragraphs, and before you know it, we're able to have a full conversation with other people. Speaking of other people, remember that zone of proximal development from Vygotsky? That's right, it's relevant in language. It speaks to how we are able to learn language faster if we have someone helping us learn language. So if we are within the critical period or the period of our life that it would be appropriate to learn language, roughly the first 12 years of our life, we will develop our language skills faster if we have someone helping us to provide support, to model language skills, and to scaffold our learning. One way that social others can help us learn language is through what is called child-directed speech. Now, this is not baby talk. Child-directed speech involves changing our language patterns to be more accommodating to children who are first learning language. In other words, I may change my tone, I may speak more slowly, I may repeat myself more frequently, I may use more emotion and expression in my voice when I'm speaking to a child who is less familiar with the language, as compared to when I'm speaking with an adult who I expect would be more familiar with communication. Now, part of why child-directed speech can be helpful is because of those mirror neurons. Remember, our brain is hardwired to watch social others and mimic their behaviors. When I see my caregivers or teachers speaking, I'm able to watch how they speak, how they move their face, how they move their mouth, how they even gesture, and that allows me to mimic those behaviors and learn the language of my culture. Speaking of culture, it turns out that we're all born with kind of the same capacity for phonemes or basic sounds. So phonemes tend to be rather universal. However, over time, I really only retain culturally relevant phonemes. In other words, sounds that I do not hear in my own language get pruned or removed, so I have less access to those phonemes. This makes sense. It helps our brain be more efficient and learn the language that best fits in with my culture. Finally, when looking at language and its intersection with thought, we need to appreciate the concept of linguistic relativism. This suggests that my language or my vocabulary will influence my ability to think about the world around me. Likewise, my ability to think will influence my language. In terms of linguistic relativism, we can start to appreciate how as a child's vocabulary becomes increasingly complex, particularly during that pre-operational stage of cognitive development, their ability to think about the world around them will also become more complex. And as children develop cognitive skills, they will be more capable of learning additional language and additional vocabulary.